One of the weirdest aspects of the FNAF timeline, and one of the big leaps theorists have to make when creating one, is the 5th game in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, Sister Location. This game completely changed the pre-established story, introducing the idea of remnants and agony into the games. But the biggest questions fans had that we still don't really know the answer to is, when does Sister Location even take place? And today, I'm here to answer that question, and maybe even fix MatPat's ultimate FNAF timeline while I'm at it. So strap in, theorists, because we're about to fix the FNAF timeline. In order to understand when Sister Location happens, we first have to go over what actually happens in the game. Michael Afton, son of William Afton, goes to Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, a facility that rents out the Funtime animatronics, in order to free the soul of his sister Elizabeth, who is trapped inside Circus Baby. Elizabeth ends up betraying Michael, scoops out his insides using the scooper, and wears his skin as a suit along with the other Funtimes. Thanks to the agony of being worn like a costume and the trace amounts of remnant on the scooper, Michael Afton comes back, and vows to find his father, presumably to kill him. That's basically Sister Location. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Wrong. The biggest issue with Sister Location isn't the game itself, it's the issue of deciding whether it takes place before or after FNAF 1. Let me explain. In MatPat's ultimate FNAF timeline, he states that the reason we see Odor listed on both the pink slips from FNAF 1 and 2 is that Michael, who's essentially a walking corpse at this point, is going to the Freddy's locations in an attempt to free the souls of the kids trapped inside the animatronics. There are several problems with this, the main one being the chain of events Matt creates to prove this. His timeline goes something like this: Springlog failure, Sister Location, FNAF 2, FNAF 1. The big problem with this is that this means Afton couldn't have been around during FNAF 2. But he is. In my opinion, it's far more likely that Sister Location happens after FNAF 1. Here's why. Unlike other FNAF theorists, I don't like the idea of the Funtimes and Elizabeth's death happening very early in the timeline. In my opinion, William has to have a compelling motive to build these things, and he probably had to have killed the 5 MCI kids at this point. There's also the possibility that the Funtimes were characters from Fall Fest who got their own pizzeria and then were retrofitted with killer tech. But that doesn't change anything. You know what does change everything? This voice line from Hand Unit that we hear at the beginning of Sister Location.
Due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment.
We know that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed shortly after the MCI, which occurred in 1985. Thus, since Circus Babies filled the void, it's basically confirmed that Circus Babies opened after Freddy shut down or after 1985. So right off the bat, we have a basic timeline of events. Fredbear's gets opened, then Freddy's, then the MCI happens. Freddy Fazbear gets shut down, and Circus Babies gets opened around 1985. This could be why we see a poster for Circus Babies Pizza World in Into the Pit, which takes place in 1985. It's an affiliate location to Freddy's, but ended up replacing it. But here's the thing, FNAF Sister Location doesn't happen when Babies open. We know that the opening of Circus Babies was cancelled due to the death of William Afton's daughter, Elizabeth, at the hands of Circus Baby. After this, the Funtime animatronics got moved to an underground facility that appears to be located under the Afton family house, thanks to the map we see in Breaker Room, that includes the locations we see in FNAF 4, namely the bedroom we see in the nights, the plush trap room, and the path to Fredbear's from the minigames. We know from Didophobia that Afton likely did experiments on kids similar to the gameplay of FNAF 4. We also know those experiment rooms were linked to Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals, the name given to the facility. However, the Funtimes in the bunker don't appear to be possessed during the events of the story. But here's what I think is going on. William started doing experiments at some point before 1983 in a series of rooms connected to a bunker under Fredbear's family diner. Eventually, William Afton moves the animatronics from Circus Baby's Pizza World to said bunker, and cancels the experiments, leaving anyone inside to rot. The animatronics are rented out via Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals, which is a subsidiary of Fazbear Entertainment. William uses the Funtimes for his remnant/agony tests and so on. But now we have to lay out everything we know clearly so we can determine when the events of Sister Location actually take place. So let's go over absolutely everything we know for sure. We know Sister Location happens before FNAF 3 and Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator because we see Ennard, who forms at the end of Sister Location in Pizza Sim. We also see a destroyed Fazbear's Fright in a cutscene in Sister Location. It's also very likely that it takes place after the Follow Me minigames where William Afton gets spring-locked, since we don't see William in Sister Location and we see him as Springtrap in the cutscene at the end of Sister Location. And while some, including me, thought that the Follow Me games happened after FNAF 1, there's something that might discredit that idea. The characters in Follow Me, like Freddy, have buttons on their chest. The classics that we see in FNAF 1 don't have those buttons, but the Withers from FNAF 2 do. So what if Follow Me happens after FNAF 2 but before 1? This kinda messes up the order of events I had set up, so I'll choose to discredit it for these two reasons. 1. Help Wanted, which tells us that the original FNAF games have inaccuracies because of the indie dev not knowing the truth, and possibly Fazbear Entertainment obscuring it. And 2, I don't think Scott was trying to create a timeline back then. I feel like he only started trying to create a good story from Sister Location onwards. Thus, I'm willing to say this was an oversight on Scott's part. But let's get back to FNAF 1 and why I think it happens before Sister Location and not after it. The reason many think FNAF 1 and 2 happen after Sister Location is because we see Odor listed as a reason for termination when the night guards from these games get fired. And Michael Afton is essentially a rotten corpse after the events of Sister Location. I've already said why I think Odor is listed in FNAF 2 in my previous video, but in case you missed it or need a refresher, I think it's because someone was looking for dead kids inside the animatronics, and the lingering smell of the corpses then rubbed off on the hands of Fritz Smith, the name used by the Night Guard on FNAF 2's Custom Night. The other reason, tampering with the animatronics, is a nod to Custom Night but helps solidify the theory. I think it's more of the same in FNAF 1. The current guard, Mike Schmidt, is trying to take apart the animatronics to prove there are corpses in them. I think the reason he's doing this is because he's actually Michael Afton trying to get his father William imprisoned. It's likely that William manipulated his son into working at different Fazbear locations, possibly in an attempt to free the souls of his dead siblings. However, I think Michael went to the Sister Location bunker of his own free will, or at least partially of his own free will. Why? Because William is dead. Similar to Game Theory's Ultimate Timeline, I think that Sister Location happens after William's death, but unlike that timeline, I can place the events in a way that actually makes sense. You see, one of the biggest flaws in MatPat's timeline, apart from the Mrs. Afton theory, is that the events in the first part of the timeline just don't make sense when you take a step back. MatPat states that Afton dies before Sister Location, which in turn happens before FNAF 1 and 2. So if this is the case, how the heck is William magically back to do the DCI in FNAF 2? And why are the broken animatronics from Follow Me still around? This major oversight can be fixed by simply moving Sister Location forwards a couple of years, and mixing around some of the events in said timeline. So this is my rough timeline of events to fix Sister Location. FNAF 4 takes place in 1983, the same year Freddy's opens. In 1985, the missing children incident happens, which leads to Circus Baby's Pizza World replacing Freddy's. Elizabeth Afton is killed, which leads to Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals being opened around 1987, the same time FNAF 2 takes place. It's also worth noting that Balloon Boy and possibly Mangle could be from Circus Babies originally, due to how similar they are to the Fun Times. Anyway, William manipulates Michael, his son, into working for him up until around 1994, when he gets spring-locked while trying to get agony-infused metal used for the Funtime animatronics. Mike goes to the Sister Location bunker, aka Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals, gets scooped, then FNAF 3 and FNAF 6 happen a decade or two later. So there you have it. I think Sister Location happens a bit after FNAF 1 in 1994. And the reason Odor's on the pink slips is because Michael Afton is tampering with the animatronic characters to try and prove the kids are inside them, not because he's a rotting corpse entity. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your feedback in the comments. Keep on theorizing, and remember, never stop overthinking. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please consider joining my Discord server. Links to that and other things are in the description.